Welcome to the deep dive. You've shared a really fascinating collection of materials with us today.
Yes, it looks like we've got a great set to work with.
We're focusing on the natural wonders, really, right here in the Midwest, specifically the Winona area, and Great River Bluffs State Park.
That's right. We have excerpts covering geology, some really good insights on birding along the Mississippi Flyway near Winona.
Yeah, and details on the state park itself, from guides, websites, there's a park map, even a pretty detailed bird checklist.
It's a comprehensive look, so the idea is to kind of piece this all together.
Exactly. Let's dive into what makes this region stand out. We should probably start with the setting, right? The Mississippi River Valley, the Flyway.
Absolutely. It's crucial context. The Mississippi Flyway is, well, it's basically a superhighway for migrating birds, and Winona is smack dab in the middle of a key stretch.
Okay, so a vital corridor. What makes this specific landscape the focus of our sources so special geologically?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. You've probably heard the term driftless area.
I have, yes. That's one of the things that caught my eye. It sounds unique, like it dodged something.
It did, in a way. Great River Bluffs State Park, and this whole chunk of southeastern Minnesota, parts of Winona and Houston counties, plus bits of Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa. It was never covered by the big ice sheets during the last glacial period.
Never covered. That's hard to picture for Minnesota, isn't it? The land of 10,000 lakes, all carved by glaciers.
Exactly. Most of the state owes its landscape. The lakes, the rolling hills, the soil itself, that glacial drift to those massive glaciers grinding away. But this area, it stayed ice-free.
So if the glaciers didn't sculpt it, what created those, really dramatic bluffs, the ones the park is named after?
Well, the glaciers still played a role, just indirectly. As they melted way off to the west, you had this enormous amount of meltwater.
Okay.
And all that water flowed east, massively increasing the power of the Mississippi River and its tributaries.
So more water, more carving power.
Precisely. Over thousands, millions of years, this supercharged river system sliced down through hundreds of feet of the local rock, mostly sandstone and limestone.
So that's what created the bluffs, the cliffs, the steep valleys we see today.
That's the process. Relentless erosion by that glacial meltwater.
Wow. Untouched by ice, but shaped by its water. It's quite a story. And what about the loess mentioned in the materials? How does that fit in?
Right, the lowest. So after the carving, you also had these periods where fine silt and clay, basically rock ground up super fine by the glaciers further west, got picked up by the wind from the glacial outwash plains. Huge dust storms, essentially. This windblown dust settled over the driftless area, forming this layer of loess.
And that's the fertile soil.
That's the fertile soil. Really good for farming, but there's a catch. It's very fine, very easily eroded, especially on those steep slopes.
Which is why the park signs always say stay on the trails, I guess.
Exactly. Protecting that soil and the unique plant communities it supports is vital, especially in a place like Great River Bluffs.
Okay, so summing up the geology. No direct glaciers, but massive meltwater carving through sandstone and limestone, then a blanket of wind-blown loess soil, resulting in, what, half-dome bluffs?
Yeah, half-dome bluffs, sheer cliffs, steep valleys, rolling hills up top, and then the flat river floodplains. It's a really distinctive mix. Even Father Hennepin noted the bluffs way back in 1683, according to one source.
Amazing. And this unique landscape, it must be fantastic for wildlife, right? Especially birds.
Absolutely. That landscape variety, the different elevations, slopes facing different directions, it creates all these microclimates.
It means more types of plants can grow.
Precisely. Way more plant diversity than you'd find in the flatter, glacier-scoured parts of the state. And that plant diversity is the foundation for everything else, especially the bird life.
Which brings us neatly back to the Mississippi Flyway. Winona's location is key, you said.
It really is. Think of the Flyway as this continental route. Birds need reliable places to stop, rest, feed, especially during those long migrations.
And the driftless area provides that.
Perfectly. The bluffs offer nesting sites, the forests provide cover and food, the river backwaters are full of resources. It's this critical combination of habitats. That's why we see such incredible numbers, over 280 species recorded just in the Winona area. The checklist you shared really drives that home.
It's an impressive list.
Yeah.
So let's talk specific spots. The Great Birding excerpt mentions several hotspots.
Yeah.
Even Lake Winona, right in town.
Yeah, don't underestimate urban birding. Around the creek on the west side of Lake Winona, you might find blue-gray gnatcatchers, maybe orchard orioles.
Oh, nice.
And check under the pedestrian bridge, barn swallows often nest there. Classic sight, watching them swoop around.
And on the lake itself?
Loons, sometimes horned grebes, definitely gulls and terns. But fall is really key. It becomes a stopover for diving ducks, scaup, goldeneye, buffleheads. You can see good numbers then.
Okay, interesting. What about Woodlawn Cemetery and the Holzinger Lodge Trail? A cemetery seems an unusual birding spot.
It might seem so, but think about it. Mature trees, fairly quiet, nestled against the bluffs. It's actually great habitat.
So what kind of birds hang out there?
During migration, it's a good spot for passing songbirds, kinglets, warblers, different sparrows. In spring and summer, you get nesting species like wood thrushes, vireos, orioles.
Rose-breasted grosbeaks, too?
Huh.
Indigo buntings?
Yep, those too. Even pine siskins sometimes. And listen for great horned owls in the woods nearby, or look for red-tailed hawks soaring overhead. The Holzinger Lodge Trail just above it gives you more of that bluff woodland habitat.
Got it. Now, Prairie Island sounds like a real hub of diversity. Bottomland forest, pines, prairie marsh, open water. That mix must pull in a lot of species.
Oh, absolutely. Prairie Islands is a top birding spot for exactly that reason. There's that 1-mile Audubon Nature Trail, which is perfect for exploring.
What should people look for there?
Well, in the woods, great horned and barred owls, various woodpeckers, nuthatches, also blue-gray gnatcatchers, thrushes, vireos. There's usually an active osprey nest on the power poles near the ponds, too. Always cool to see.
And the marshy bits?
Green herons, wood ducks are common. Sorrel, common snipe, black terns nest there. The prairie areas are good for sparrows, bluebirds, warblers, especially during migration. You might hear woodcocks painting in spring.
Wow, quite the list. And tundra swans might pass through.
Yes, during migration. McNally's and Verchota landings on the island are also good spots for ducks and rails. It's really packed with potential.
Then there's Garvin Heights, specifically mentioned for fall hawk watching.
Right. That high vantage point gives you these amazing panoramic views. Perfect for spotting migrating hawks, eagles, falcons as they catch the thermals and head south. It can be quite a show on the right day.
I can imagine. The list keeps going. Farmers Park near Garvin Brook.
Yeah, good for warblers, grosbeaks, redstarts, vireos, orioles, bluebirds, and you might hear ruffed grouse strumming there in the spring, which is a fantastic sound.
And Beaver Creek Valley State Park sounds special. Unusual birds like Acadian flycatchers.
It is special. Beaver Creek Valley is apparently the only consistent nesting site in Minnesota for the Acadian flycatcher.
Really? Why there?
It's likely the specific conditions in those steep, wooded stream valleys. They also have Louisiana water thrushes and cerulean warblers, both near the northern edge of their range. So, yeah, a real hotspot for birders looking for those less common species.
Then Whitewater State Park in the WMA next door. Sounds like another major area. Water birds, hawks, woodland birds.
Whitewater is excellent. The Dorr and Randall pools attract waterfowl. You've got nesting red-tailed and red-shouldered hawks, maybe sharp-shinned too. Common stuff like kingbirds, flickers, phoebes, killdeer, yellowthroats are around.
But also some woodland specialties.
Definitely. Ruffed grouse, whippoorwills at dusk, pileated woodpeckers. Wood thrushes are common nesters. You might even find a Louisiana water thrush there too. And it's great for migrating warblers, including nesting blue-winged warblers.
And eagles, bald and golden.
Bald eagles are there year-round. Golden eagles are more of a winter possibility, but yes, they do show up.
Okay, which finally brings us right to Great River Bluffs State Park itself. The big highlight seems to be the peregrine falcons.
Yes, one of the state's few nesting pairs. It's such a great comeback story, after the DDT crisis wiped out so many populations in the mid-20th century.
Why is their return so significant?
Well, peregrines are top predators. Their decline was this huge warning sign about pesticides accumulating in the food chain. Seeing them successfully nesting again on those natural cliff faces, it means the environment is healthier. It's a real conservation win.
That's fantastic. Where in the park might you see them?
The recommendation is often to try parking on the service road south of Highway 61 below Kings Bluff and scan the cliffs from there. But they can be elusive.
And besides the falcons?
The park's native prairies are important for grassland sparrows, the bluff edges, the woodland trails good for warblers, vireos, kinglets.
And this whole region seems packed. Trempealeau National Wildlife Refuge, a globally important bird area. Wow.
It really is. Nearly 200 species recorded there. The mix of wetlands, floodplain forest, and prairie is just phenomenal for migratory waterfowl, songbirds, shorebirds, raptors. It's managed specifically for wildlife.
Whitman State Wildlife Area gets a mention for prothonotary warblers, those bright yellow ones.
That's them. They love mature bottomland forests, which Whitman has. You might also see American redstarts, pileated woodpeckers there. And it's another key spot for migrating tundra swans and waterfowl.
Parrott State Park, too, across the river in Wisconsin. Sounds like similar habitats.
Very similar. Marshy areas in Trempealeau Bay for wading birds like cranes and herons. Bluffs like Brady's Bluff for soaring vultures and hawks. And woodland and upland birds, too. Thrushes, tanagers, turkeys, grouse.
And finally, Reeks Lake Park, famous for tundra swans in the fall.
Yes, sometimes thousands gather there. It's an incredible sight and really underscores how vital this whole Mississippi corridor is for migration.
Okay, so we've established the Winona area as this amazing bird hub, built on that unique driftless geology. Let's zoom back in on Great River Bluffs State Park specifically. Established 1976, it used to be O.L. Kipp State Park.
That's right. Named after Orrin Lansing Kipp, who was big in establishing Minnesota's highway system, but they renamed it in '76, presumably to better reflect the park's main feature, those amazing river bluffs.
Makes sense. And the land came from a state forest.
Yes. It was carved out of the Richard J. Dorr Memorial Hardwood Forest. The land transfer happened in 1971. Park opened a few years later. Importantly, it's designated a natural state park.
What does natural state park mean in practice?
It generally means the primary focus is on protecting the natural resources and ecosystems, maybe with slightly less emphasis on intensive recreational development compared to a recreational state park. Preservation is key.
And those ecosystems are pretty diverse, based on the plant communities mentioned?
Oh, very diverse. Thanks to those microclimates we talked about, you get classic maple basswood forests on some slopes, oak hickory woodlands on others. There are some old pine plantations.
In those goat prairies, what makes them unique?
They're found on really steep, usually south-facing slopes. The soil is thin, they bake in the sun, and importantly, the winter freeze-thaw cycles tend to heave out any tree saplings that try to get started.
Ah, so it's Steve's Prairie.
Exactly. Allows prairie grasses and wildflowers to thrive where trees can't easily establish. The park also has a native stand of northern white cedar, which is interesting for this far south.
And all these plants support the animals. We covered birds, but what else calls the park home?
Well, the mammal list includes things like opossums, raccoons, deer, foxes, even the spotted skunk, which is less common. Reptiles and amphibians include various snakes, frogs, turtles, and the six-lined racer lizard in those prairies.
And the timber rattlesnake. It's mentioned as threatened.
Yes, they are present, but the park info emphasizes they aren't numerous and generally avoid humans. If you leave them alone, they pose very little threat. It's important habitat for them. Overall, the park checklist notes about 35 mammal species and 17 reptile amphibian species.
Plus the 100-plus bird species. It's a rich environment.
Yeah.
So people want to visit, what can they do there?
Hiking is definitely a main draw. There are about 6.5 miles of trails. The Kings Bluff Nature Trail is popular. It's a 1.25-mile self-guided loop with great overlooks and signs explaining the geology and plants.
Are there easier options?
Yes. The South Overlook Trail is just 0.2 miles, and the East Overlook Trail is 0.3 miles. Both offer fantastic views without a long hike.
What about camping?
They have 31 drive-in campsites suitable for tents or RVs, plus 4 cart-in sites, a bit more rustic. You haul your gear in a short distance, and 5 bike-in sites right along the Great River Road bike trail.
Nice. Picnicking, birding.
Yep, about 20 picnic tables scattered around for day use, and birding, as we've said, is excellent. The prairies are known as a spot to look for Henslow's sparrow, which is uncommon. The woodland trails offer chances for flycatchers, peewees, vireos, maybe even a scarlet tanager.
What about winter activities?
In winter, they groom about 8.7 miles of trails for cross-country skiing, and you can snowshoe pretty much anywhere in the park off-trail. Of course, just enjoying the fall colors and the river views is a huge draw year-round.
Anything that's not allowed?
Right, good to know. Horseback riding and snowmobiling are not permitted in Great River Bluffs, likely to protect the trails and sensitive habitats.
You also mentioned state natural areas within the park, Kings and Queens Bluff.
Yes, those areas are designated for extra protection because they contain really significant or fragile natural features. Currently, access to the Kings and Queens Bluff SNA, including the bluff tops, is restricted.
Why that?
Primarily to protect the nesting peregrine falcons and the sensitive bluff prairie habitats from disturbance. Conservation comes first in those designated zones.
Makes total sense. Okay, practical stuff. Park hours, permits.
Park is open 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. You need a Minnesota State Parks vehicle permit, currently $7 a day, or $35 for an annual pass that gets you into all state parks.
Camping reservations needed. Pets, firewood,
Reservations are definitely recommended, especially for weekends or holidays. You can book online at the DNR website or call. Pets are allowed, but strictly on a 6-foot leash, and they can't go in buildings or the S&As. And firewood, really important. You need to buy it locally or at the park. Don't bring your own from far away because of invasive insects and diseases.
Got it. That bird checklist seems like a key tool for visitors, too.
Oh, absolutely. It's great for knowing what to look for and how likely you are to see it. Canada goose common, tundra swan, occasional migrant, wood duck common summer resident.
Great blue heron common. Bald eagle present year-round. That's cool.
Yeah, and it flags things like the red-shouldered hawk as uncommon but possible anytime, the peregrine as special concern, and even the Henslow sparrow as an uncommon summer find in the prairies. It really helps focus your birding efforts.
Well, this has been an incredibly thorough deep dive. It really paints a picture of this special place, the way that unique driftless geology interacts with the Mississippi Flyway to create this haven.
It truly is a remarkable intersection of geological history and ongoing biological processes. The landscapes are stunning, and the sheer abundance and variety of bird life it supports is just amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like whether you're into hiking those bluff trails, camping out, or specifically searching for birds, there's just so much to explore and observe. It really makes you appreciate how connected everything is.
Absolutely. And hopefully our discussion today, drawing on all these great source materials you gathered, gives listeners a real sense of what makes the Winona area and Great River Bluffs State Park so special. Maybe it inspires folks to plan their own visit, their own deep dive into the region.
Definitely. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? Considering that immense geological timescale, the constant pulse of migration, what other hidden stories does this landscape hold just waiting for us to find them? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.